16T? I'm sorry, but I simply do not have a teapot big enough to create a brew that large. I might need to boil the kettle a few times, so please be patient. So you might be thinking, Sonic Yoda, what the hell is 16T and why have you dedicated an entire SEGADriven video to it? Well, first of all, I'd like to apologise for getting very niche again. I know this is becoming a bit of a habit now, but gosh darn it, I just can't help myself when I pick up a thread of intrigue and have to follow it through. 16T is a 1991 arcade action title released for the Japan-exclusive Sega Game to Shoken service that you could access in the early 90s with the use of a Mega Modem peripheral. I've been meaning to look at more of these titles, and I saw this described as an action game, so I thought, well, that's likely got very little Japanese text to worry about. Let's have a look. And I was right! This is not the first time we've looked at a game from the Sega Game to Shoken service, because a while back we reviewed Sonic Eraser, which also came from the service. As is typical with Sega Game to Shoken titles, 16T is a very small little game that was made to be downloaded through a dial-up connection. It never received a full cartridge release until the 1995 release of Game no Kanzume o Tokyo, which was a compilation of Sega Game to Shoken titles that could be played entirely offline. 16T puts you in control of a programmer who is trying to destroy bugs within the confines of his own software by literally throwing 16-ton weights on visual representations of said bugs. The bugs take the form of classic horror monsters for whatever reason, and each stage tasks you with crushing waves of monsters until the stage is cleared, and then you move to a new location and do it all again. The glitchy software presentation is a fun idea, but the abrasive bursts of television static that the game occasionally vomits at you are a little too much for my tastes. Thankfully, the in-game action isn't so noisy. You simply jump around these looping arenas looking for enemies while lugging big weights at them, and when you hit them they burst into a satisfying shower of gore. There's a bit more nuance to it, and you can bounce weights off other weights to let them travel further. You can also destroy weights by jumping on them a few times, but honestly that's the main gameplay loop described. Each stage introduces a new level layout, and as the game progresses you get new surface types like breakable blocks, icy floors, and specific blocks you can bounce off to muck around with. The graphics are fairly simplistic, which is to be expected considering the small file size, but the backgrounds certainly try their best to be striking and trippy, often spelling out words and trying to distract you. 16T isn't winning any awards for rich and deep gameplay, but it's a fun little arcade-style curio that reminds me of older, simpler Atari 2600 software, where the game was so simple you could pick it up through play, and the main goal was just to set a high score. 16T very much has that sort of energy, which is perfect for a quick muck around, but it's not a game you'd sink any serious time into. There's just not enough here to keep you engaged for very long, and I guess that's always going to be an issue when the size limitations for this sort of software had to be small in order to be able to download it over a flaky dial-up internet connection back in 1991.